Cotney Construction Law is dedicated to helping the construction industry in legal, risk, and safety challenges. Welcome to this week's Law and Mortar with John Kenny and Trent Cotney.
Hey, it's Trent Cotney, CEO of Cotney Construction Law, and I want to welcome everybody to another episode of Law and Mortar. As always, we've got John Kenny, CEO of Cotney Consulting Group, with us. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I hope everybody out there is as well. And how are you doing today, Trent?
Doing fantastic. Looking forward to a long weekend coming up here, and just wanted to talk to you about a few things. Obviously, it's been a very busy time for us. One of the things that came up earlier this week, unfortunately, we had a roofing contractor give us a call with a static electricity fire, and this is something that we have to deal with a lot. It's become a big issue, and I'm looking forward to getting some content out on what you can do from a legal standpoint to help protect yourself from this type of accident. In particular, focusing on health and safety toolbox talks, things of that nature. John, I know in your 45 years experience, you had to have experienced some kind of static electricity fire at some point. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
I did. It's actually one of those mysteries that runs through the roofing industry that you either believe it or you don't believe it. But firsthand experience, it's true. I was on a high rise up in Jersey City, probably 18, 19 stories in the air. The whole roof was only about 120 squares because it's a high rise, a small roof, putting down a totally adhered system. And we were all up there, and all of a sudden, woof, static electricity, whatever created it, don't know, but it was static, not a man-made fire. All of a sudden, there was a crew of 8 of us standing in the corner of the roof watching everything on fire come towards us. So luckily, it burned itself out quick. It doesn't always happen, but luckily it did. So I was probably in my early 20s. That was my first exposure to a static fire, and it's a real and scary thing.
It is, and I think it's something that as an industry we could do a better job in training and educating crew members out there on the potential risk. And like you said, all it takes is one spark, and all of a sudden you're dealing with a full-fledged fire. So, something else that's been interesting, we've had a big uptick in matters that we're dealing with, not just here in the U.S., but on an international basis. And I guess let me explain what I mean by that. We've been involved with a lot of mergers and acquisitions, a lot of corporate contract type work that is not necessarily dispute oriented. It's more international negotiation and trade. And what's really interesting is the uptick that we've seen in South America, and in particular Ecuador. John, why don't you talk a little bit about what you've seen on the consulting side?
Yeah, I mean, we've especially in Ecuador, we've seen a big uptick in construction, and they're making a pretty good move over there into renewable energy. And we've also had some calls as far as the natural gas part of it working in, and we're starting to see an increase in. They're a little bit different over. Let me start. They're a little bit different. They don't use the standard roofing contractor um, model that we're used to here in the U.S. A lot of your architects, your engineers, your designers, they really serve almost as your professional licensed, lack of a better word, designer slash general contractor. So they're actually responsible for it, regardless of the field, whether it's infrastructure, horizontal, vertical construction. So we're starting to see a lot of movement down there. I'm glad that we, got our connection in and started to work down that area. It's a very interesting, different approach to go into business. The business structure is very similar, but like I say, your roofing contractor is more of an it's not even totally a substructure. It's very difficult to explain, but the responsibility lies all the way back up onto the designer, from the permitting to the building stage. They don't have standard permitting like we're used to in the U.S., nor do they in a lot of the European countries. But we're seeing a lot of action in that, and definitely renewable energy is huge down there.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, and we're lucky that we've got a lawyer that's licensed in Ecuador to help kind of guide us through some of the process. But huge growth market. I've seen a lot of these resort type mixed use projects going up. We're actually working on one right now that's in the 100 million range in the Seychelles. So it's been interesting working with our corporate division on that, and working with some other lawyers both over there and other places in Europe, trying to figure things out. But very complex, very exciting. It's interesting to see that even with sort of a global economy that's, that could potentially be in a downward swing, there's still a lot of building going on. There's still a lot of optimism, and it's been fun here, at least working on those types of projects. John, I want to turn to consulting in particular. And, earlier today, you had shown me some things that were very interesting on the precog analytics side from the standpoint of being able to really pinpoint data. And I thought it was pretty impressive. Obviously, I don't have the technical background that you do, but why don't you kind of explain to the listeners what we're working on there and what you were able to do?
Sure. One of the things, if you've watched any of our precog videos, we take the industry data, compare it to your data inside, and you're able to pinpoint it, per your different departments, estimating to do matches. That's great. That's level one. Right now, we're into a next level up where we've been able to take marketing data along with lead generation and give you a preview. I don't mind sharing it with our listeners. They're loyal and they're good. Able to take even some Google Analytics off of there, and we're able to capture all that now. So we're actually able to get down on an extremely granular level, of taking these tasks down to zip code areas. So, okay, so what does that really mean? Well, what that means as a business owner, we're now able to take your information, compare it with your campaigns that you've got running, and compare it with your leads coming in. And you're able to look at that down to a zip coded area or a group of zip codes, depending on how you want to look at it. And, right now you have a 2D, dashboard. And what I was showing you today, which I know you like very much, is to be able to take that and look at it in a 3D view, which really gives you that, flyover feel where you're looking down on top of the data to really analyze. So, yeah, these are things that we've got coming out in 2021.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, I gotta admit. And again, I don't understand all the technical aspects of it, but I know what I see and I liked it. So very interesting stuff. We always ask for questions from our listeners, what questions you've got for us. We actually had a question from last week's Law and Mortar that I wanted to address today. And the question was, what do we think the most important thing is? If we had to focus on one thing in a contract, what is the most important thing to look at? Okay, so the example is, you're a contractor or a subcontractor on a job site. You are getting a contract upstream and you're asked to review it. What should you look at? So I'll take the first shot, John, then I'll give it over to you. So
okay.
From a legal standpoint, the one thing I always look at first is the indemnification provision. Okay, the indemnification provision is something that can potentially bite you after the project is completed. Okay, meaning that you may have water intrusion, or you may have a claim that ends up coming after the fact and can cost you, not just tens of thousands of dollars, but possibly millions of dollars. So when I look at an indemnification provision, I'm looking to see whether it's a limited, intermediate, or broad form type indemnity. And let me explain, let me give you what that means in common speak. So limited indemnity means that, let's say you're a sub, okay? As a subcontractor, you agree to hold harmless your customer and the owner from any of your bad acts or omissions, okay? I'm okay with that. I can live with that. I think that's fair. Broad form is where you agree to not only hold the customer and the owner and others harmless from your bad acts or omissions, but from their bad acts or omissions, okay? I strike that, and most states have some kind of prohibition against that. Intermediate is where you see in whole or in part. Okay, if you see in part, you want to strike through that. So it's just if you are wholly responsible for it, you own it. Otherwise, you're not owning it. So just remember that the most important thing to look at in a contract, in my opinion, is indemnification, because it has the biggest potential risk. Obviously, you're looking at payment, you're looking at all those types of things that you normally should have your eye on and catch. But a lot of people gloss over that. So if I've got my high level legal hat on, I'm telling you, watch out for indemnification. John, what would you recommend?
Well, I'll do this in two steps. First thing I absolutely recommend is that a roofing contractor or any other contractor has someone like yourself review that contract, because there is a lot of hidden legal gems, I always like to call them. So I agree with that. So let's say we're past the legal part of it. What I've seen the most mistakes over the years is on the operational side of any contract. I've seen where your estimating team has looked at it one way and you're contracted to do it another. So you absolutely need to review your scope of work very detailed. Unfortunately, a lot of the general contractors that you sign up for or other owner type that they're creating a contract, they may leave that vague and always refer, and it's usually always a schedule of what the date of the specification was you're working off of, date of RFIs, and the dates that are on the drawings. I cannot tell you, I bet you 70% or more of the time that I've reviewed a contract, I have found that our estimators through the years have worked off of a different revision than what the contract is. Because lo and behold, the contract has maybe been 6 months past when you were going to get the job and bid it, and the design team's on revision 4 since then. Very dangerous, because you're probably signing on to do a whole host of other work that wasn't clarified in the beginning where you thought you'd get change orders. If you remember, Trent, we went through this with a contractor out west just not too long ago, where you hit it from the legal side and I looked at it the other side, and then we had a Zoom meeting with them, and that was the biggest catch that they were on. Remember, they had the wrong revisions. They signed a contract and the estimating team was on revision 3 and the contract had you on revision 6. So if you do that, liquidated damages, know your basics on that. That's going to affect you operationally. Look for all those points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some great points. Obviously understanding what your potential risk is, both from a legal and from an operational side, is key to earning a profit on any job. So with that, John, I think we've covered a lot of topics. As always, if you guys have questions, ask us. We'll talk about anything and everything. Wish all you guys well, and stay tuned next time. I'm sure we'll have some great topics for you on our next lawnmower. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.